Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality, coming back with here today with an article from November 9th from Outkick, and I know this has already been reported a few weeks before you're actually hearing this, but I am on vacation here, and I figured the stuff that's not really priority stories or stuff that's going to be out of the news cycle soon is stuff that can wait until I'm on vacation around Thanksgiving time. So that's why you're hearing it now. And so I know it's going to sound like I'm late to the party, but I am actually recording this the day after this article was posted. But I did kind of want to go over it because it made me think, like, even though I haven't kept up with the NFL for years, basically since around the Kaepernick stuff, just there seems to be like a massive double standard here. So let's go ahead and see what this article has to say. And it says, Nick Bosa fined by NFL for wearing MAGA hat on NBC post-game interview. And it was just that alone. I mean, I remember seeing like clips on X of him just doing that, and I was like, okay. And they're like, he's going to get fined. And I'm like, why? Like, you're talking about a league that, like, during the Black Lives Matter riots had stuff like in the end zone said like end racism, and they had shirts that said stuff like that on there, and all these political slogans. Players had like names on their helmets of people, including that Jacob Blake dude in Wisconsin that tried to just look it up, do bad things to his baby mama. And I'll leave it at that. And that was okay. Remember, all that was fine. But Nick Bosa wears a MAGA hat, and suddenly it's like, oh no, you can't do that. But let's go ahead and see what the article itself has to say. Maybe it disagrees with me in some fashion. It says, Nick Bosa has been fined by the NFL for his viral MAGA hat display in Week 8, and predictably, conservatives are not going to be happy while liberals will rejoice, because isn't that always how it goes? It says, give the liberals a break, folks. They've had it rough lately. Yeah, sorry you lost every branch of government for the next 2 years at least. I'm not sorry at all. The NFL just fined Bosa $11,255 for wearing a white hat inscribed with Make America Great Again in gold lettering, and then photobombing the post-game interview on NBC after the Sunday night football game between the San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys. And says the NFL, scrolling, come on mouse, work with me here. Says the NFL held off on the announcement and actually didn't announce the fine, but leaked it via sources, because yeah, we're not just going to come out and say it. We need to kind of do it in an underhanded way, right, NFL? Says the league previously held off on this fine until after the elections for, well, it didn't give a reason. Yeah, because this happened not last week, I think, but the week before. Whatever Week 8 was, I don't know. Again, I haven't kept up with the NFL in years, and I'm certainly not paying attention to it now. But anyway, it says it's been 2 weeks. Okay, I was right. It's been 2 weeks since this happened, and the league typically announces fines the next week. So they just decided for some reason that not to do it here. It says Bosa is the first NFL player this season to be fined for violating the league policy against displaying personal messages. And I know the NFL, even when I was watching it for basically my entire life up until like 2017, they're notoriously strict about their uniforms and what you are allowed to wear. I mean, you can go look up, like, there's a history of players being fined for things where you just kind of go, really? Like, really? That you got fined like 5 figures for like wearing different colored shoelaces or something? I'm making that up. I don't know if that actually happened, but like that's how they are, like different colored shoelaces than you were supposed to, because maybe like, it wasn't the breast cancer awareness month or something, but like your mother has cancer and you're like, all right, I'm going to wear pink shoelaces. Even though I'm on a team, and I don't think any team has pink on it, but then they'd be like, nope, you can't do that. $10,000 fine. That's just how they are. So it says, and he probably wasn't too upset about it, being Nick Bosa, of course. So speaking one day after Republican Donald Trump steamrolled Democratic candidate Kamala Harris in the race for the White House, Bosa told reporters that wearing the hat on national TV just days prior to the election was well worth it. Says, and although he had not been fined yet at the time, he didn't seem upset it might happen. Says if it comes, it comes. And Clay Travis, who, by the way, is the boss of the Outkick website, and it basically says the same thing, except says, I bet this is the best $11,255 Nick Bosa has ever spent in his life. But I mean, honestly, over wearing a hat, and it's like, I understand if leagues were keeping, like, saying no political messages at all, but they were applying it evenly, and he did this, then I would go, okay, well, I understand the fine then. Okay, but if it's like it only applies to one side, then it's like, yeah, I don't agree with that at all, as a matter of fact. So it says, some may claim the fine is political. It says, it's possible the folks who support the MAGA and President-elect Trump's movement may claim this is the NFL sending a message against conservative freedom of expression. I don't necessarily think that, but I think it's part of it is their dress code, like I said, is like extraordinarily strict, but in a way, I think it is against freedom of expression. But it's like, again, apply it evenly, and I have no problem with it. But when it only goes, okay, so I guess I just argued against myself there and lost. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree. It says it is against conservative freedom of expression. Okay, I lost to myself. It says they may claim the league is pushing back on Bosa's political statement with one of his own. The NFL has often been silent on issues of freedom of expression, including this year prior to its big game in Brazil. I forgot what that was about. What was it? Because of the censorship stuff, and they just kind of shut up about it. Okay. I remember hearing about that, but I didn't look into it. It says, but Bosa is not the first 49ers player fined for displaying clothing or gear with personal messaging. And I believe this is actually George Kittle right there. It says, so the NFL fined George Kittle in 2023. It says, tight end George Kittle last season was fined $13,659 by the league for unsportsmanlike conduct after the tight end raised his jersey to reveal a personalized t-shirt underneath in a win over the Cowboys. And Kittle exposed a t-shirt that read F Dallas. I mean, okay. I mean, yeah, so maybe, I don't know, did it just say the F with dashes or did it actually say the word? Because then I can understand, like, okay, yeah, kids are watching, you probably don't want to do that sort of thing. Like, I get that at the same time, but it's still, like, it's a little overboard, guys. I mean, a $13,000 fine, okay. It says, well, Make America Great Again is not obscene or profane. It is apparently considered a personalized message by the NFL. As in the NFL has a history of such fines beyond the 49ers in recent years. And there's Robert Griffin III. So it says, in 2013, Robert Griffin III was fined $10,000 for an apparel violation. That fine came when Griffin wore a t-shirt reading Operation Patience while he was warmed up before a preseason game against the Steelers at FedEx Field. Operation Patience was coined by Griffin as his and the Redskins plan to miss the entire preseason while he recovered from knee surgery. Wait, the Redskins were going to miss the entire preseason, or he was? The way that's written sounds like it was like they were making a plan for the team just to skip the preseason, but I know so they mean him. But like, why? I read that, I'm like, why is that a problem? Like, that just doesn't make sense. But again, very strict league about what you're allowed to wear and not. It says in December of 2011, then Patriots wide receiver Wes Welker was fined $10,000 for wearing a hat with the logo of an energy bar company he invested in. Welker, who wore the hat to a press conference, was upset by the fine because he had apparently worn the same hat to a previous press conference and not been fined, or previous press conferences and not been fined. Yes, and again, that's where I'd say you gotta uphold the standard every time, or don't. But like, you can't just go, oh, he's wearing this hat now, nothing happens. Oh, now he's wearing the same exact hat, and oh yeah, we're gonna fine him. So I can understand him being upset about that. Because that speaks to the NFL's sometimes inconsistent application of its fine schedule on such matters. And yeah, here's something that, yeah, I am definitely not with Cap, but it says NFL players in recent years have at times worn t-shirts with personalized messaging in favor of BLM or Colin Kaepernick both before and after games and were not fined. Most of those Kaepernick shirts date back to 2017, while the BLM shirts date back to the rise of that movement around 2020, 2021. The NFL allowed for the promotion of BLM, and it wasn't just players wearing t-shirts. Sometimes it was members of the coaching staff, or sometimes even a majority of entire teams. Yeah, you saw that in every sport. It wasn't just the NFL. You saw it everywhere. Okay, I remember watching baseball and being like, can we just play a freaking game? Like, do we need to have this messaging on everything? Like, I want to escape regular life when I come here. I don't want to see this. But I mean, again, it's the same thing where it's like, why are these folks not fined? They're obviously going against the code of conduct, the uniform policy or whatever, and they don't get fined. It says the NFL itself has engaged in use of social or politically charged slogans. Yeah, they're going to fine themselves. It says in 2020, the league allowed players to display messages such as Stop Hate and Black Lives Matter on their helmets. Okay, so that's what it was. It wasn't, or I think it might have been some individual players. Oh, here we go. It says the league also signed off on players assigning the names of black people, such as George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, and others on their helmets after those people's deaths set off protests and, in some cases, riots around the country. Yeah, okay. So it's like they're, again, blatantly going against their own rules here because it's a political message. But then when somebody on the other side of the political aisle, even though it's not completely the opposite because BLM is far left and MAGA is basically like kind of centrist Republican. Okay, but yeah, so it's not quite the same on the other side of the spectrum, but still it's on the other side and they just go, oh, that's bad. It says then, starting with the 2021 season, players were allowed to choose a decal with one of 6 messages to place on the back of their helmets. End to racism, stop hate, it takes all of us, Black Lives Matter, inspire change, and say their stories. How about no to all of those? And the league that is banning personal messaging itself fully embraces personal messaging on its fields, such as salute to service and racism, and it takes all of us. Yeah, so like I said, they even put it, it's not just the players doing it, they themselves put it on their fields, and you're not getting the okay to do that without the NFL saying that's okay. So that was totally fine. And this douche nozzle, this is Colin Kaepernick for people that don't know, communist idiot. He's the reason I basically kind of don't watch the NFL anymore. There's more to the story. I'm not going to get into it. I have one of my first videos on the channel is about why I don't watch the NFL anymore, and baseball at that time as well. So go check that out if you want to hear that story. Again, I'm not going to get into it now. This video is probably long enough already, but let's keep going here. So it says, comparing Bosa and Kaepernick. It says, there are questions about how Bosa's political message compares with that of Kaepernick. One way it does not compare is that Kaepernick was never fined for kneeling during the national anthem in protest for what he said was systemic racism and oppression in America. I'm still waiting for someone to tell me where that systemic racism towards minorities actually is. But okay, and what oppression? Like, they just say it's there. They never tell you where. They just say it exists. Does no NFL player or coach who ever joined his protest during the national anthem was ever fined by the league. Says there's also another major difference. Nick Bosa is good enough to remain in the NFL despite his personal political statement. And that's what I know about. I don't know really much about the guy, but I know that he's like really good. So yeah, I mean, I agree with the author of this article. Like, you know, it's one of those things like what's that that statement that you see pretty regularly where it's like it's different, but the D is in parentheses, the capital D, like Democrat. So it's like it's different. I think that's exactly what's happening here. At this point, you know, so it's like NFL, if you're going to uphold your standards, do it all the way across the board. Either everybody can do political statements or nobody can. And given the fact that they're basically like uniform Nazis, it's probably going to lean towards nobody should do it. And that's totally fine. If nobody can do it, then nobody can do it, but apply it equally. So that's how I feel about this. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you agree with the NFL's decision? Do you think it should be applied evenly? Do you think one side should just be able to say whatever the hell they want and the other side can't? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.